Okay, welcome back, part two. Previously on animation tutorial, so we had a look at just cutting up the scene, some materials, cutting up the animation timeline, and some materials, and how to get from Maya to Unity easily enough. Okay, so we're back, and I have the lighting panel open here. Now to get that, it probably isn't there by default. You should be able to come down here in window and hit lighting, and I have docked it next to the inspector. I don't need the default sky, I'm just going to go for none. So it's just saying that I won't have any reflections and my PBR won't work. I don't have PBR, so I don't mind. And I'm going to switch off the other settings for auto down here. That is going to try and bake light textures and reflection probes and stuff that I don't want it automatically doing, because it's just going to slow the processor down. I'm not using them. Okay, so no light maps, and that's grand. Back to where we were. Okay, so what's next? We are going to start adding my script, and the way you can do that, you can add component. I keep mine in a scripts folder. If you have a few scripts you've imported, that might be a good idea to make a folder for them. Otherwise, keep it somewhere neat. And it's called animate character. I can go here and type animate character, and it's coming up already, and I could add it that way, or I can simply drag and drop to the inspector from the project window. Okay, straight away this is the script it's added, and part of the script, the start, it tells it to immediately add a rigid body, which is responsible for physics, and a capsule collider. Okay, the rigid body now, when I hit play, it's just gonna fall. Okay, because there's no ground to collide with. And the capsule collider, because there's just a very basic transform, there's no shape to go around in the very parent, the actual mesh is down here. The capsule collider has just looks like a little sphere down there, so the first thing we need to do is set that up correctly. And I can adjust the center, and now the height, so just to encompass him enough. Okay, and the next thing I need to do is make him stop falling through the ground. So I will make a cube, and this cube can be, say, 30 by 30, and we will bring it down. This is my ground. Okay, I think I've already made a toony floor material, so I'll throw that on while I'm here. And it's thinking about it. Okay. No, it doesn't. What? There we go. Okay, I don't know what that was about. And it's not taking a shadow, as you can see. You might want a material that takes a shadow. It's probably easier to look at with a shadow on. A little bit below the y-axis there, but sure. It'll all be working. Okay, now I'll try and play again. There we go, and he stays. My arrow keys have some movement in them already, and a bit of turn. It's way too slow. We'll fix that up now, and there's his jump, pressing the spacebar. Okay. The accesses for moving, you can use WASD, you can use the arrow keys. If you have a controller plugged in, that'll work as well. Okay, so next thing to set up, I suppose, yeah, I'll just say the rigid body. Yeah, you can, the normal settings, I'd leave them like the way they are, and yeah, a capsule collider will collide with other colliders. Let's see if we can get a list of them. Here they are. Some of them are 2D. You get box, capsule, sphere. There's a special one for terrain, and there's a mesh collider. Now, terrain and mesh colliders are complicated. They cannot collide with each other. So a mesh collider won't collide with a mesh collider. You can't get something very complicated like that to happen. You can make a load of children and make them out of these primitive ones. If you want to make a gun or something to bounce on the floor, there's more information about that. You can look up yourself. But I think for the purposes of Project Capsule Collider will be fine for your character. The reason we go capsule is because the roundy edges, it can go up hills, up some not too steep steps and things like that because of the rounded base. Okay. This needs a character animator, and as we can see up here, it should be in this slot in controller, animator controller, and that is an animator is needed there too. So I've made an animation folder. I'm going to make my animator. There's a few ways I can do this. I am right clicking, create, and I want animator controller. Okay, and this is bean 02 animator controller. The other way I can make this is, oh, my recording's in the way again, is UI, what, it's not a 3D object. Is it a component, asset, create, animator controller, and that will make one in whatever folder I have open. Just do that, and I don't need that, I'll just delete it just to show you. Okay, so now when I select this guy, he's just in my project. I have my prefab over here. I'm gonna drag and drop that in here, and it's having a think again. It's not happy tonight. Saying no. And there we go, second time works like a charm. Okay, now when I hit play, it'll automatically fill in this. There's a bit of script at the start, so I wouldn't worry about that. But it is probably better to put it in yourself. You can click here, and you should have a choice, and it's already saying Bean 02 is the only one. Or even if I just take Bean 02, the only animator on the scripts, it'll see it there. Okay. That'll just save one line of code happening at startup. It's not important. The first thing to look at, the rotation and the translation from the input. Now if I hover over these, my tooltips should come up and they'll tell you what each one means. But these first ones, it's asking me to have a horizontal animator parameter. If I drag this out, you can read it better. Now I want to keep a bit of room for my scene. I'd normally have this animator in its own window open on the second screen, but you couldn't see it there, so you have more room to look. And our first empty default state, so from entry is when I hit play and it starts. This is going to be the first state it goes to, and I've already cut up my animations, so I've got a choice in here for the motion is going to be the animation, and our first one will be idle. Is that the right idle? It'll probably do, we'll find out. So when I hit play, there we go, and it's idle and it's looping, and this is just two very basic frames just going over and over. Okay, it's saying parameter idle doesn't exist yet because I have code on that one. Let's see, what did I call Bean 02's idle walk cycle? I didn't add one. Okay, I'd better do that. And the idle 02 was just 2 frames. Sure, apply it. And this one Here's one I made earlier. It was 35 to 36, so this should be the same. And idle 02 and 35 to 36. You need at least one frame of transitioning, and I want this to definitely loop. I'll hit apply, and that's the one I should be using in my animator. So that was idle 02. Okay, now we had console stuff coming up and giving out. Let's try again. Okay, we'll fix the grounded now. Right, Animator, from going from one state to another, you're going to need something to tell it to do that. So my idle just loops constantly, and because the way I've set this up, mine requires a horizontal parameter, a vertical parameter, and a grounded bool. So we'll start with the horizontal and the vertical, and they are going to be float. A float is a decimal place number, and this I'll just, to be sure I need the correct spelling. So I'm actually just going to come in here and copy and paste. Okay, and then for my next, it's going to be a float, and that will be my vertical. And just because I can't spell, and if it's the wrong name, this won't work. Paste, vertical, and a bool, that is grounded. Okay, now hopefully that might have fixed a few of the parameter things. Yeah, nothing coming up in console, that's good. Okay, Animator, lovely, and it's just looping this 2 frames constantly. Right, okay, now we need to do something. I would like to walk. Push it up. Well, we won't really be using the exit at all. Any state is really good to have, but it's kind of dangerous. It'll, from any state in your state machine, you can link an animation. Now from idle, when I select this is the condition to change state, and the new state will be my walk. Bean walk should be fine. So I'm going to have this as walk forward. So I want it when I hit the vertical key. I've done one too many there, so I can just select this and hit minus. And when vertical is greater than 0.1 is what I'm going to say. I'll show you how the input works now. Before I do that, I'm going to just move my camera, because this is what it looks like in the game scene, and I don't want to be looking at his back all the time. So I kind of like this angle, gives me a bit of room to play with. I just need to select my camera as a game object. You can see the preview there. And under game object, I can go to align with view. There we go. Now my game scene is like that. So I could pan around to, I've scaled things now, I can pan around to whatever angle I want, and I could just, again, align with view under game object. You can find follow camera scripts online loads of places, or you could just drag the camera into the bean so it follows him everywhere. That's not a great option, because when he jumps and stuff, it'll look a bit odd. Okay, so when I hit play, he's idle. Now when I press vertical, he's walking. And he's not stopped walking because I haven't told it to go back to idle. But when I press it, you can see in the window here what's happening with vertical. That number is actually, I've set it up to multiply the distance he moves. Now you might want him to go forward with vertical, you might want him to go sideways or something different. and you can change that in here. You can add, there I've got the vertical movement at 0,1. If I wanted vertical to make them go sideways, I'm going to make this 0. Now I press forward, it goes sideways instead, and he goes the other direction instead. Or if I wanted it just to rotate him, let's say in the Y, let's go 1 per frame. Now I'm pressing vertical, and now he's spinning on the spot with an animation. Now because I'm in play mode, it's not going to save any of those changes to the script that I just had. And it's back to 0,1. Now the problem with this state, first of all I need to name it. And this is walk forward. Is it doesn't go back to idle when I let go of the button. So I need to make a transition back. And if I select this, I think the parameter will be if horizontal is less than 0.1, but I also, because I could be going the other direction, it needs to be also greater than minus 0.1. So basically it needs to be 0. It needs to be in between these two numbers, is what I'm saying. It's not horizontal, it's meant to be vertical. There we go. Okay. You can see up here, this is how it's going to blend part of the walk animation, and this is the, so it should blend back to idle. It won't just, depending on where his feet are, it shouldn't just snap. It should actually take the rotation of the bones and blend them into each other. So it should look smooth. So forward, and I'm letting go, and it's not happening. What have I done? Vertical. If vertical is less than 0.1 and then greater, that's what I got wrong. Okay, that makes it in between those two numbers. Walk. And there we go. I've nothing for backwards yet, but he can walk forward. It took a little while for him to stop there. And there we go. So it's probably blending a bit too much, a bit too long. Maybe we'll reduce that. I have has exit time, so it's going to play the whole animation. That's another parameter. You don't see it in the conditions here, but it's going to play the whole animation all the way through and then blend. And I don't want that. It can stop at any point and blend. So I'm going to turn that off. And fixed duration is also going to affect that, so I'm going to turn that off too. There we go, now he's stopping when I want him to suddenly. Okay, let's quickly move on. I'm going to do loads more of these, so I'm sure you'll pick it up as we go. And I can just copy this and paste it. We'll move our any state out of the way. And again, we want to transition to it, and we want to transition back from it. And the transition to was going to be vertical. And if vertical is, this case, less than minus 0.1. So minus 0.2 all the way to minus 1. And you can see these numbers changing here when we're in play mode. Once again, I don't want it to have an exit time as a condition, and it doesn't need to have a fixed duration. And we'll see how that looks. Forward, and he stops, backwards, and he stops, and the animation looks a bit weird, the way it's looping. Let's fix that. I'm being cheap and I'm using the one walk cycle. So the thing to do is, here's my speed, is to just set the speed to -1. Now we're playing in reverse. Forward. Okay, it's still hiccuping. I'll bet that's because I don't have loop set to on for that walk cycle. Now if I click on my project, click on this, I'll see who has it, and it is indeed me being in here. Let's have a look at his animations. It's being walked, that's not the one I want. I should be using, they're old animations, I should be using walk cycle 2. And while we're here, I'll just check. Walk cycle 2 is looping. Okay. Wrong animation. It's good to name stuff. Walk cycle 2 and walk cycle 2. See, does that make a difference? Here we go. He's walking forward. He's walking backwards. Okay, still hiccuping a bit. I'll fix that later. We'll move on. So it's going to be the exact same setup for vertical. I won't get into that. I will. Oh, actually, vertical will be different. It's a different animation, so I guess I'll show you how to do that. Okay, create an empty state, and this is going to be him rotating. Let's call this rotate. Rotate left, and did I do a foot shuffle? I can use the foot shuffle from the other character. That should work fine. Speed 1 is fine. Now I'm going to copy and paste. And this next one will be rotate righty. Okay. My transition again, selecting this, and no exit time, thank you. Doesn't need a fixed duration. And I want to go left when I hit the A key or the arrow key. That should be my horizontal, and we're going to, I think I need to guess this. It's like the USB key to put it in the right way the first time. So there's no exit, so I'll just continuously do this. There we go, that's what I wanted. He's going to the left. Okay, so make transition back. And again, it's the same as the vertical settings. So I'll need 2 horizontal, and while it is greater than -0.1 and while it is less than 0.1, send it back. So we're near 0, that's when we want to stop. And we'll just go ahead and do the exact same. This is getting repetitive. With the other direction. So 1, 2, I need 1 to go into the state, and that is horizontal. Forgotten already. That was less than. This is going to be greater than 0.1. No exit time. No fixed duration. Okay. And make transition back. And horizontal, we need 2 this time, greater than -0.1 and less than, so it's near 0 again. Okay, let's play. He walks forward, he walks back, he turns, he turns. Okay, so that's the start of the setup for your animation. That's the very basic stuff. I am going to stop there, and I'm going to go to, here's one I made earlier, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about the rest of the features. But here you can see the vertical parameter. Again, that's all changeable. You can change the rotation or the movement. You can make it do whatever direction you want. You can make them go up in the air or whatever you like. But I'll be talking about the jump next. The fire button, you can put in an action with the fire button, albeit holstering and unholstering. And if you really want, you can add your own keys. You can put it in so when you hit K or anything on the keyboard that it affects an animation parameter. I'll just do a test bool here, and we'll call it test. Now I need to be the exact same name. Go into him. I've added my key, animator parameter, test, and it is a bool. I need to tell it exactly what it is. If I tell it the wrong thing, it's going to error as well. So now if I hit play, there he is. If I press the K on the keyboard, test turns on. And if I hit K again, it turns off. So you could have a condition saying if test is true, then do something. It can also, the other one you can do, I think you've got the idea. A float is a decimal place, an int is a whole number, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, bool is true or false, and the last one is trigger. I'll show you how to use trigger in the next, actually maybe I'll just do that now for jump. No, I'll show you one I've already made in the next one. Change my mind here. A trigger just happens once and then it resets. Okay, more about that in a sec.